Hey everyone, there's four major things you want to keep in mind with the stock market right now. An underlying factor is the war in Israel and Gaza. Right now, it's just horrible, which means that thousands of people are dying. It will be the gates of hell if hundreds of thousands of people start dying. So it's a big mess, is what it is. That underlying factor, that's just kind of a low roar underneath the whole stock market. But you got three punches coming Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And you want to pay close attention to these. The rest of the stuff might be interesting and could affect things somewhat this way or that way. But most of the other stuff is mostly noise. The big three events. Chairman Powell reports what the interest rate will be. We all expect him to pause. I will be shocked if he does anything but pause. I think it's going to be a hawkish pause in the sense that he will say that we're keeping things open in case we need to increase it another quarter of a point. Okay, that's always kind of the threat. The thing that could turn this around is if he even hints that they might be done for good or that they might cut rates in the near future, the stock market will go wild. The stock market is looking for any excuse to go upwards. It's just holding on, and it will hang on every word. The announcement of the pause is not a surprise. That's like 99% chance of that happening. It's the 2:30 conference on Wednesday that's going to tell the tale. And if he slips up and indicates any dovishness, the stock market would take that as hallelujah, here we go. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to go out of his way to be hawkish because that's the way they increase interest rates on the long end. The Federal Reserve sets rates at the short end, but on the long end, the bond market sets the rates, and they will react with those rates going higher on the 10-year, 20-year, and 30-year according to what Powell says in that conference. And if he says, we're going to be data bound and we're keeping that quarter point hike in reserve and we'll raise it whatever we need to raise it to get inflation down, the stock market's going to come down, or at least it should come down. I've noticed when Powell meets, the chances of him slipping up are very high. So it usually goes up while he talks, and then the next day it goes down when people realize what he really meant and what he really said. I suspect the same thing might happen now. I expect it to be somewhat of a downer for the market because he's not going to even whisper. If he's smart, he won't even whisper that they're thinking of keeping a pause or not hiking in the future whatsoever. And then on Thursday, we have Apple reporting results. This is a big deal because Apple is 7% of the S&P 500. Apple, of course, is the biggest deal in the market, and this will set the tone. As Apple goes, so goes the market. Is what everybody says. And their products have improved a lot, I think. Their iPhone 15, I think they really, for me, it's the first time I really seriously considered getting an Apple phone. I always buy Androids because Androids always had the better cameras, okay? But now I am thinking of getting an Apple phone simply because they've improved the camera. It's 48 pixels. Wow, holy clearness. And they've also come up with a new chip. It's the M3 chip, and it's 12 times faster than anything Intel produces. And Apple is the first major supplier of computers that is using 3 nanometer computing, and things are much faster. Again, it's 12 times faster than Intel, and it's if you compare it to your old Apple computer, that's not too old, but kind of old and maybe needs replacing. With the M3 chip, it'll be about 35% faster than your old Mac as far as documents go. But the big deal is it'll be 65% faster with graphics. And graphics, we know, is what eats up all the time. The 14-inch screen Pro version will be about $15.99 is the price. They're keeping that price really reasonable. And if you want the 16-inch screen, that'll be $24.99 is what I'm told. They're trying to keep prices down, which is good for inflation. The third punch is when the jobs numbers come out. And this is where bad news is good news. The Federal Reserve wants to see that we have not added so many jobs. If it comes out that we've added more than 200,000 jobs, it's going to go down. And also the unemployment rate is expected to stay at 3.8%. But if it goes below that, that's another thing that's going to make the market go down. The Federal Reserve wants to increase unemployment to help our country, strangely enough. But inflation is so bad, it's 25% cumulative inflation since the beginning of all this. And, prices have just gotten out of hand and they keep going up. And so they actually want to engineer a slow slowdown and gradually go into it. And that's sort of what's happening so far, as long as something doesn't break. Okay, these jobs numbers are a big deal, and it's the third punch in the 1, 2, 3 punch of November 1st. The Fed speaks. November 2nd, Thursday, Apple reports its earnings, and November 3rd, the third punch, you get the non-farm payroll results. You want that to be below 200,000. We got this all coming at us. In spite of all this, I am interested in looking at stocks even in down times. And on November 2nd, Novartis reports its earnings. Its symbol is NVO, and they produce Ozempic. And Ozempic is an appetite suppressant, and it's wildly successful. People are losing on average 50 pounds or more. It's so successful that it's approved by the FDA to treat type 2 diabetes. Eli Lilly also has an appetite suppressant that's approved for type 2 diabetes. And there's Wegovy, Weggovy, and that's approved for weight loss. I don't know how widespread this is going to be, but these are very interesting because they seem to suppress appetite, but there's anecdotal data that they also reduce addictive tendencies. And they think it can be used with tobacco, with alcohol. They think it can be used with gambling. Anything that's addictive, it seems to help. So far, it's not approved to treat those, but these are the things they're going to be looking at and seeing if there's enough evidence to approve it for those purposes. But right now, there's anecdotal evidence. And if you can get people to quit snacking, it quits snacking on junk food to the point that junk food makers were worried about the sale of their products. There's also some worry about a decrease in bariatric surgeries. That's surgeries people do to their stomachs so that they can lose major amounts of weight. That's going to be reduced. That it's going to reduce diabetes. That it's going to reduce medical equipment. No more need or less need for insulin pumps, for example. So this is a wide-ranging effect. A question is whether insurance will pay for it. I think that's in a process. It costs about $15,000 a year to take Ozempic if you took it for a year. Now, you want insurance. Most people will need insurance to cover that. And I think insurance companies will be willing to do it, especially if the person has type 2 diabetes or is strongly tending towards that and is morbidly obese, as they say. And they will want to have the person lose weight to prevent further costs. In fact, they've been approving bariatric surgery on that basis. And at $15,000, that's reasonable for a year of treatment. compared to the surgery, probably. And the future savings of people not getting worse in their health status is a major benefit to the insurance companies and to everyone. It might reduce alcohol and tobacco use. What's so interesting to me is that I was surprised that when they talk about staple products, they recommend staple stock during times of recession, and alcohol and tobacco are considered staple stocks. Philip Morris, which makes tobacco products, and Anheuser-Busch, which makes alcohol, beer, essentially, they are considered to be staples. Well, I guess to the point that people continue to smoke and drink even during times of recession, that's probably why they've earned that status. November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we have the 1-2-3 punch with the underlying factor of the Israel-Gaza war. These are interesting times. The Chinese, when they want to curse you, they wish that you live in interesting times because they know you're going to be in a constant state of crisis. That's the way I roll. Thank you.